You are welcome to today's edition of Renew Your Mind. I am Dr. Simeon Onakuwater, the President of Society for Positive Living SPL. In today's edition of Renew Your Mind, we shall be considering the topic, Beware of Perfectionism. Beware of perfectionism. Perfectionism is the habit of refusing to tolerate a performance or behavior you consider to be below perfection. A perfectionist demands perfection from himself and from others. He gets easily upset when his expectations are not met. A perfectionist does not tolerate or accommodate the errors, mistakes, or weaknesses of himself or others. He gets angry frequently, always pointing at the flaws of others. A perfectionist is more prone to become a fault finder. There is a saying that a fault finder will find fault even in paradise. Anyone who is so prone to focusing on the errors, faults, or weaknesses of himself or others is said to be suffering from perfectionism. There is a big difference between perfectionism and striving for perfection. Perfectionism will make you more miserable and depressed because you refuse to accept the outcome that is below your expectation. On the other hand, you can strive and hope for perfection, but very willing to accept whatever the outcome is after you have done your best. Aim at the sun, so the saying goes. If you cannot get the sun, at least you will get at a star. A perfectionist will be very upset for not reaching the sun, and he will refuse to accept the star. By so doing, he makes himself and others miserable. He tied his peace of mind, his happiness, his satisfaction to the realization of his expectation. Studies have shown that people who are perfectionists lead a more miserable and unhappy life. They are easily upset and more frustrated. Such people may even have more achievements, but very poor emotional life. The Bible admonishes us in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6 to 8 as follows. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. Perfectionists operate on all or none principle. A perfectionist may have 80% of expectation realized, but extremely unhappy. On the other hand, another man may have 50% of his expectation realized and is dancing with joy and gratitude. The man with 50% is enjoying life far more than the man with 80% who want to achieve 100%. Nobody wins all the time. You don't need 100% to be successful or to be happy in life. You don't need your spouse to behave perfectly well in all aspects of life for you to accommodate or to tolerate him or her. When you complain and nag over and over again, it only worsens the situation. Always remember, it is not the situation we find ourselves, but our interpretation of the situation that determines our happiness. Learn to interpret situations in ways that attract happiness and peace of mind to you, rather than sadness and anger. Perfectionism is an addiction that has made a lot of people to be miserable and unhappy. Many people want their bodies to be extremely perfect. Some time ago, I met a lady who is so unhappy with herself because she has pimples on her face. Here's a lady who ought to be dancing with joy, for not having life-threatening ailments such as kidney problems, diabetes, hypertension, and so on. Yet she was very unhappy because of mere pimples, which she claims she has taken a lot of drugs and have seen several doctors. This is how many people allow little things they should ignore to affect their happiness. Let us not allow minor things like pimples to cheat us from major things like our happiness and the joy we get out of living. The truth is, after doing our best, let's believe that we are good enough. We don't need everything to be perfect before we enjoy life. We don't need to have 100% before we pass our examination. In almost all the examination, the pass mark is what? 50%. Our insisting for perfection before we permit ourselves to be happy is one of the most useless behavior on earth. Many people addiction to perfectionism certainly kills their enjoyment of life. It makes them to even suffer from procrastination. Perfectionism will make you to postpone what you ought to do today until you have a perfect way of doing it. A good job today is better than a perfect job tomorrow, because that tomorrow may never come. One way we can reduce the tendency of perfectionism in our lives is the practice of contentment. Contentment is the self-discipline to be satisfied and calm with any situation we find ourselves, particularly after we have done our best. A good example of a life of contentment is that of St. Paul. He stated, "For I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things, I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. And I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me." Philippians chapter 4, verse 11 to 13. For you to be happy, you need to learn the habit of contentment. It allows you to enjoy what you already have. Contentment attracts peace of mind to you. It makes you to be fulfilled and removes pressure off your back. It drives away anxiety, fear, envy, and other negative emotions. It improves your self-worth and self-esteem. Contentment drives away perfectionism. If you are addicted to perfectionism, your enjoyment of life will be affected. You will not find satisfaction in your partner. You will focus more on the errors and deficiencies of your partner. You will not find satisfaction in your children's performance. You will continuously be comparing them with the high performance of other children. Contentment brings acceptance. If you are content, you'll be comfortable with this prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. One who is content will appreciate whatever nature bestows on him. He will not be worrying because he is not like other people. He will make the most of what nature gave to him. He will follow the advice of Douglas Malloch, who wrote this poem. If you cannot be a pine on the top of the hill, be a scrub in the valley. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. We cannot be all captains. Some people got to be crew. There's something for all of us here. There's a big work to be done and there's a lesser to be done. And the task we must do is the one that is near. If you cannot be a highway, then just be a trail. If you cannot be the sun, then be a star. It is not the size that makes you to win or to fail. Be the best of whatever you can. Beware of perfectionism. We don't need everything to be 100% perfect before we permit ourselves to be happy and to enjoy life. Practice what we call good enough philosophy. Your spouse may not be perfect, but in most cases, he or she is good enough to allow for a relatively happy life. Be content with what you have. Complaining, nagging, rebuking, abusing only makes matter worse. So learn to reduce the tendency of perfectionism in your life for your health and happiness sake. I thank you so much for listening. I also want to appeal to you to take deliberate steps to raise your positivity ratio by increasing your positive thoughts of joy, gratitude, contentment, humor, laughter, and so on, while reducing your negative thoughts of hate, self-pity, anger, worry, fear, envy, and so on. If you want to be a volunteer or advocate or a champion of positivity, kindly contact us on 070 64 17 8022. 070 64 17 8022, and join us to make the world a happier, healthier, and better place to live in by God's grace. Thank you, and God bless you. The more